Good morning. This is the October hearing before the Board of Oil, Gas, and Mining, occurring on Wednesday, October 26, 2022. We're a few minutes late getting started, but appreciate your patience. I think that we will dive right into it and turn the time over to you, Director Baza.
Thank you, Chairman Hansen, and welcome to you and members of the board to your October meeting here in Salt Lake City. My name is John Baza. I'm the director of the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining, and we'll be conducting a short briefing session for you this morning. Seated next to me is Natasha Baliff. She's our legislative and policy coordinator for the division. And we wanted to talk to you a bit about rulemaking. Those of you who have been on the board for a while know that when we do rulemaking, sometimes they can be fairly time consuming, especially if we go through the informal process, reaching out to stakeholders and do stakeholder engagement. Many of you as board members have been on some of those activities, and I've always said that significant rulemaking that's done right might take as long as a year. We can often do it quicker than that, but it's fairly time consuming for the division. And then when we get to formal rulemaking, there's some time and commitment from this board itself that we have to engage in. So we have a laundry list of rulemakings, some of them which have been handed to us as we must do because of legislative changes or directives from this board. Others are things that we want to do. And then other rulemakings might be more in the category of pretty simple administrative things, which would be fairly easy to accomplish. But with that introduction, I've asked Natasha to provide you with an overview of what rulemakings are being considered to this point. And Frankly, we'd like to hear your thoughts as to priorities we ought to set. I don't think it's possible that we can do all rulemakings at once. But if there's some that you feel particularly important that we ought to try to address first, and I think Natasha will even point out some ones that have particular significance, we'd like to hear from you on that. And you don't have to provide us that feedback today, but over the course of the next few weeks and maybe prior to your December board meeting, you could let me know what your thoughts are in terms of rulemaking. So with that, I'll let Natasha take over and give you that overview.
Again, for the record, I'm Natasha Baliff. I'm the Legislative and Policy Coordinator for the division. I do have a short slide show for you about our rulemaking. So just to start, our current ones, we have the oil and gas bonding. This one was initiated by the program audit a couple years ago, and it's currently in the informal phase. We've sent out the first draft. We've had the first meeting with stakeholders. We are working on the second draft. That has been hung up a little bit with some personnel changes within our oil and gas program, but we are hoping to get a second draft out within the next couple of weeks, and we will be giving the stakeholders about a month to look over it before we have a follow-up meeting. The next one that you should be seeing next month is one of the administrative ones. We're not expecting a lot of stakeholder input. It's a fairly simple change. So within our minerals rules. Yeah, of course.
Mr. Chairman, I'm getting some messages on text that say that there's a significant echo on the YouTube channel. I'm wondering if our tech team could address that.
We'll let Paul try and remedy that situation.
We believe that issue is corrected now. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. No, you're good. I can't stand echo, so I'm totally fine pausing. So going back to the minerals annual report date change, this one is a fairly simple change. There's 3 different places within the rules that either say the end of year or December 31st. There's one spot that says November 30th. So we're just changing that November 30th to December 31st. So all of the annual reports and all of the annual fees are all due at the same time. And again, you should be seeing that one next month, asking for formal rulemaking. And then another one that's coming up is the minerals exploration tax credit. This was initiated by the 2022 legislative session, Senate Bill 250. They basically set up the same type of tax credit as the oil and gas program gets with their well workover tax credit. So that's something that we're sending out language to see if stakeholders have any input. And then we'll either bring it to the December or the January board hearing. So those are the upcoming ones, the ones that we're currently working on. And then this is kind of our big laundry list. This is the one that everything on here should have a significant informal process where we have multiple drafts, we have multiple stakeholder meetings. These are ones that could potentially take up to a year or more, especially carbon sequestration on there will probably be a multi-year process. I'll leave this up for a minute so you guys can get a good look at it. These are ones that employees have brought to us. Legislation, previous board members. It's just kind of a big list of everything.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
of course.
Just two. Can you elaborate more on the seismic rulemaking?
I wouldn't be able to do it. You have, okay.
Well, this one has been in the works for quite some time, coming from the oil and gas staff. Our geophysical exploration rules, which we call our seismic rules, it's been a long time since they were updated. Technology has changed substantially, and we just feel they need an update. And it's actually been in the works for some time. I'm thinking close to 2 years. We've had at least some draft documents that we've been tossing around within the division. But it's one of those things that we think needs to be cleaned up and brought into the kind of the current state of the art for that effort. And it involves permitting geophysical activity like shot holes and seismic lines and exploration like that.
Okay, thank you. And then the horizontal rule making, I know there's been some in the pipeline for a while. Do we know what the status of that is?
So that's one that we haven't started on yet. Other ones keep popping up and kind of pushing that one down. But that was one that I know that the board was really interested in seeing happening. Again, it's just manpower. Basically, we don't have enough people to do multiple big rulemakings at a time. So that one has just stayed on the list.
And there is a draft document of that rulemaking, but it's not something we've even disseminated to stakeholders or anything. It's just been an internal document we've been working from.
Okay, thank you. Board members?
Natasha, if December 31st falls on a weekend, when is the information actually required?
That's a good question.
Should it maybe say the last business day of the year, or just a question?
Yeah, it could say that because there are multiple spots where it says the end of the year, and even in the statute it says the end of the year. We figured it would be an easy enough change just to change it to December 31st, but that's something that
Just a thought.
Yeah, we can look into it.
Think about it.
Yeah, I'll sit down with the minerals manager and with Dana and see what might be the best. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'll move to my last one that are just the administrative ones. Again, these aren't ones that we're expecting to have a big stakeholder input. For example, the top one, R647-4-116. We want to add in cities and counties that we have to contact, and not, I think it just says counties right now. So we just want to make sure that's in the rule so that it continues to happen. We have had some requests about mailing requirements. Maybe instead of sending out, like printing tons of pages and then mailing those out, we could just do electronic mailing. So that's something that we want to look at within our rules. And then other rulemakings that do come up, and it seems like it's going to be on a yearly schedule, we'll have at least one program that will have to renew the rules. So every 5 years, The Office of Administrative Rules just asks us to look at what we have and make sure it's still applicable, that it's still working, and if it is, to renew it. If we don't renew it, then we don't have rules, and a lot of times that causes a lot more problems. But just to know, minerals rules are coming up early next year. Then we have coal rules, and then we have oil and gas rules again. And that's a fairly simple process as well. But just to let you know, this is everything that's on our list. Actually, there's been a couple things added to the administrative rulemaking that are just the small changes, even since I made this slideshow yesterday. So there's always little things, but any direction that we can get from the board, anything that you think we should prioritize, we would absolutely love to hear it, and we'll put it on the list.
Well, thank you, Natasha. And I think
Yeah, of course.
we will have the discussion about prioritization at our earliest opportunity. And we'll let you know. Thank you.
Thanks, Natasha. Appreciate that. The second item on our briefing agenda, many of you are aware, you've probably seen news reports of an underground coal mine fire that's taking place in Emery County. This is the Lila Canyon Mine. And it's a pretty significant producer in the state. And divisions had a pretty limited role in terms of, actions to address the fire. But, we've been involved, and we wanted to give you an update on what the division's role has been and how we've communicated with the various parties involved. And Dana Dean, our Deputy Director for Mining, is going to give you that information.
Good morning, Board and Chair. Some of you may know more about this fire than I do, so I'm just going to tell you what the division's role is, because a lot of people think that we have something to do with safety. We do not. We don't have a lot to do with this fire. MSHA, the Mine Safety and Health Administration, are the primary agency on site evaluating what's going on underground and whether people can go inside the mine, or what to do next and things like that. The BLM and us, the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining, we're responsible for some of the surface things that are happening right now. So this fire started, I think, on September 22nd. I was out of town, but the mine quickly contacted John Baza and Steve Christensen, our coal program manager, and followed up with this letter to the BLM, copying us, asking if they could drill 3 exploratory holes to get down into where they thought they could monitor the air and see what's going on, see if they knew if the fire was behind a certain point. So Steve did a great job, quickly got a letter put together. We responded the next day on the 27th, and our letter basically said, go and do what you need to right now. We will come and look at bonding and reclamation requirements and permitting for the exact disturbance when the emergency is over. The mine, in addition to that, has committed to do this reclamation as soon as they don't need any of these holes. So those 3 holes allowed them to sort of figure out where the fire is and where it might be helpful to put in some foam seals. So they came back with a letter on October 14th, and they asked if they could disturb up to 7.3 acres and drill 35 holes. So we responded with pretty much the same letter. And we just said, go ahead, but you'll need concurrence from the BLM. The BLM last Friday, in a Herculean effort, got an EA out. I don't know why I can't see my mouse on here. It's on their website. If you want more information on the fire, there's a lot of information in this EA. Like I said, they got it done in record time. There is one map here. So some of the things that they're doing right now, that this map's on the EA. This isn't a map from the division. But what they're doing is they need to drill 28 of those 35 holes are 7 entries, 4 different stations to pump that expandable fireproof foam down in and seal off the fire into an area of the gob that's away from their working area. Other holes are to drill into the working area where their longwall is currently stationed and water is rising to both protect the longwall equipment and pump that water over the surface to the fire area, because there's no other water source to try to get into that fire. If they could safely get underground and do some of these things underground in a safe manner, that would be, they expressed to us in a meeting that would be their preference rather than doing this work on the surface. So they're exploring parallel paths. All we know right now is we've approved this and now the BLM's approved it. We don't know how far along they are or anything like that. But we have a limited role. We will now step back until the emergency is over, and then we'll go up and see what these drill pads look like and what reclamation needs to be done. If we need to add to their bond, we'll do that. They may reclaim them, as soon as we can get up and see them. They've committed to reclaim them as quickly as possible. This is similar to what happened at Crandall Canyon on our part. We did the same thing, step back and let them do work on the surface that they needed to. All of that reclamation has been done and bond release is done. No long-lasting ill effects from that. So that's all I had to present. If anyone has any questions, I may or may not be able to answer them.
Board members, any questions?
Was anyone hurt? Did this occur
No.
at a time when
No,
there was
thank
no one
goodness
there?
we've heard that there were no casualties, there were no injuries from this fire, and that was the best news that anyone could get. Everyone was safe.
One other question, just because I'm not familiar with mine fires. Will they try to just isolate it and let it burn, or are they actually actively trying to put out?
But they're trying to isolate it and put it out, both put the water in, and they're also trying to starve the oxygen to the fire. But there's a lot of coal in there, so
Yeah.
they may or may not be successful.
Thank you.
And our only experience with coal mine fires is really in our abandoned mine reclamation program, which tries to go in and snuff fires that have been burning for some period of time. And like in the case of one we did last year, a wildfire, a surface wildfire, actually lit some coal on fire. And so our team was working to try to snuff that one. But I can tell you this, from what I've seen, it's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes it takes a lot of time and effort to put these underground fires out. So we don't have an understanding at this point about how long it might take to deal with this fire, or how long coal production will be stalled from that mine. So I think that's a concern to everyone right now, is how long that mine is going to be down and how soon they'll be able to get back to work on it. And maybe to clarify something that Dana said, we don't have a role to play in terms of worker safety. That is the Mine Safety and Health Administration role. And so when an incident like this happens, they immediately take control of the situation. They'll set up a command center and they will talk with the company and basically direct the company on what they can and can't do. We'll hear about it secondhand in most cases, or if the company shares that information with us, we'll learn about it. But we aren't necessarily in the communication loop for what's happening on a daily basis. There is a state office of coal mine safety, which is manned by one person right now, who coordinates with MSHA on a routine basis throughout the year. That office is within the Utah Labor Commission. And again, the focus is on worker safety. So it's something that we're kind of on the periphery of, but we were involved in terms of helping them get permission to drill these holes for evaluation, and will be responsible for the permitting, bonding, and reclamation of that disturbance.
Mr. Baza, other than the safety issue, does the division have a role as far as monitoring unnecessary waste or loss of resources? Is there going to be some kind of a long-term damage to the reserves here?
We don't have a role in our coal program. I think the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act, which is the federal law, basically charges us with looking after mine reclamation. We don't even have the ability to know how much each mine is producing on a regular basis.
Sorry. The BLM would be primarily responsible for that. This is BLM coal. In the EA, it talks about, the reason that they're doing this so quickly and the reason that they're approving these drill holes in this disturbance is to protect the resource. So they're very cognizant of that. It's their resource. We coordinate with them, and we try to do the best we can to not be a stumbling block and make sure that our rules are being met, but that they have the freedom to do what they need to protect their resource and get things done the way they need to. So they're very on top of that.
Thank you.
Mr. Church read my mind.
That was
Mr. Martin?
part of my question too. Any way to quantify how much is being burned? And do those the emissions from that I assume that has to escape out somewhere. Do you see that, or is it just leaks out somewhere?
Maybe I can help with that a little bit. Typically, you seal the mine in an effort to reduce the oxygen that is going to the fire. And obviously, you cannot snuff out a coal fire by just sealing the portals in the time that they need to get it sealed. And that's why they need to inject this foam into the area that's burning, so that, or in this case, I guess, water into that sealed area behind that foam, essentially dam that they've created in an effort to snuff out that fire. And then once that has occurred, these drill holes that they're putting in will allow them to test the air or the atmosphere of the mine to see if that fire is out. And once that fire is out, MSHA will then have to evaluate the situation, determine if it's safe for them to breach the portals again, and go in, probably under apparatus, inspect the mine, see where things are, and then eventually allow them to recover their equipment and either restart where they are or move to another location within the mine to produce coal. It's a very expensive and time-consuming proposition, and being in the industry, I very much appreciate the fact that the BLM and especially the division have been very quick in their approvals. I mean, this is not an easy area where they're going in to drill. I mean, it's this time of the year and the topography, this is going to be a challenge for them. But, they've got a couple hundred people that work at the mine that directly depend on the salaries, and the quicker they can get the fire out, the quicker those guys can get back to work.
I doubt they have fire insurance for this kind of fire.
There's certain insurances they have, but it doesn't cover their corporate losses.
Do they know how it started?
I really don't know the answer to that. I don't know, Dana.
I thought it was spontaneous combustion.
Yeah, probably Sponcom
Yeah,
behind in the gob
Yeah, it was
behind
in
one of the.
a mined out area. So yeah,
Yeah, water and coal can spontaneously combust. Is that?
Yeah, you can if you add water
Yeah.
to certain
you have to have a certain
increase the moisture.
air mixture too. But yeah, as far as I know, it's spontaneous combustion. But yes, as Chris said, there are 235 people who work at this mine. Currently, their engineering team and management and environmental team are probably working as close to 24/7 as you can do physically and not and not collapse. So they're very concerned and doing the best they can to get things back in shape so that they can continue forward. But no one knows right now how long that may take. Everyone's doing the best they can to fight the clock, but like Chris said, or Chairman Hansen, sorry, said the weather is changing and those drill hole locations are in some pretty rough, high terrain. So we're hoping that they can get rigs up there and get these holes drilled before it gets too bad. But they're doing the best they can.
Yeah, I think we've had some experience going up Horse Canyon in these lousy conditions. I think that my understanding has been that they're paying their miners until a certain point, either the end of this month or sometime next month, even though they're not necessarily working, they're still trying to keep them solvent as much as they can.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to give a special shout out to our coal program manager, Steve Christensen. Amongst all his other duties, he's tried to stay on top of this and communicate well with everyone involved. I've relied on him to help me draft these letters of approval that needed to go back in a hurry. So I think he deserves some special thanks for the extra work he's taken on here.
Well, he
Yes,
is
I
sitting in the
agree.
back of the room there.
I
Thanks,
agree.
Steve.
I agree. Steve has done a great job. He always does. But, he was available over the weekend while the BLM was working on this EA for any questions they might have. He and Amanda, I know, answered some questions regarding water. So Steve and the coal team, they're very busy right now. They're doing a lot and they responded well to this. So they all deserve credit for the work they're doing.
I agree.
One more question on the production. Has there been any history of associated methane with this mine at all?
Yes, there's this area is known for gassier mines. The Wasatch Plateau is less gassy, so I'm not sure the exact history of methane associated with it, but yes, it would be one of the gassier mines.
No other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
the
you,
update.
Dan.
Appreciate
it.
everything you guys are doing, especially at this time.
Moving on, I've got a couple of calendar things I'd like to bring to your attention under other items. The first one is that we have an oil and gas collaborative meeting scheduled in Duchesne for this coming Tuesday, the 1st of November. And it will be streamed, so you don't have to attend it in person. But if you do desire to attend it in person, there's a lunch that's been sponsored, and the focus and theme of the meeting will be essentially air quality. And I know that the Petroleum Association is wanting to talk about their Latch the Hatch program for controlling methane emissions out in the Uinta Basin. So it should be a good program. And if you're available to watch it, please get on the YouTube link. And if you want to attend, let me know and we'll find a way to get you there. the next thing that I'd mention in terms of calendar items is there's a Utah Mining Association convention, and I think the date of that is November 10th. It is scheduled here in Salt Lake City, and we probably should have informed you of this before so we could get board members registered if you wanted to attend. But I'm letting you know now that if you want to participate that, let us know. We will get you registered for the event. It's a full day in, I think it's the Sheraton Hotel in downtown Salt Lake City. But again, let us know and we'll find a way to get you registered for that. We do have several, well, at least a couple of informal hearings and conferences scheduled for the month of November. But I did want to bring to your attention in December, the division will be having its annual service awards meeting on December 15th, which is a luncheon. And if you want to attend lunch, I know we've seen board members there in the past. It's our opportunity to recognize employees for their years of service for state government and some other recognitions that we do. But most of all, it's a chance to celebrate the holiday season in the division. So if you're willing and you want to, let me know and we'll make sure that there's plenty of food available for you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I think that's all I had to talk about this month. Our next meeting is scheduled for the, I believe it's the 2nd of December? 7th of December. Okay. I was thinking of some other things, but the next meeting's scheduled for the 7th of December. So we'll look forward to that with you. One of the things we might try to do at that briefing session in December, so we've had a fair amount of turnover within the division and hired a lot of new faces, people that you probably wouldn't recognize to run into them in the hallway. So I think we'll take the time in December to kind of show you the names and faces of the new people we've hired during this calendar year. And just in case you run into them, you'll know who they are.
Sounds like a good idea. Thank you.
All right. And that's all I had for you today.
Thank you. Just a quick question on the Utah Mining Association convention.
Yes.
Do they comp the participants coming from the board or the division?
They've offered to in the past, but we've always felt like since we're the regulators, we
Okay.
probably should avoid the appearance of being comped for something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I didn't know if it was going to cost the division to have board members there or not.
Yeah, but it's a relatively small cost.
Okay.
What was the date on that?
November 10th.
On the Mining Association conference?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Director Baza. Appreciate this presentation. And just one more word on Lila Canyon. They produce about 3.5 million tons a year, and a lot of that is sold or shipped not only to export markets, but to the local power plants. And so that supply is somewhat critical to the 60% of electricity here in the state of Utah. So it's important, as you recognize and the division recognize, that this mine gets back in operation fairly quickly.
We are hopeful of that.
Thank you. At this time, it is an opportunity for any member of the public that is here or online to make any comments that they wish to before the board. Does anybody have anything that they would like to present? Hearing none. The board has some internal business matters that they need to address in this brief time between now and when we start the hearing at 10 o'clock. So we will adjourn at this time and take care of that business and reconvene at 10 o'clock.